What's going on, everybody? And I hope you're enjoying your Sunday morning so far. This is NYG Jeffy T85 here, and I'm going to talk about the New York Football Giants. And now that the NFL Draft has concluded as of yesterday, you're going to start seeing some undrafted free agents that are going to be trickling their way onto the rosters of BigBlue coming into this offseason. Now, we know what the Giants did during the NFL Draft. Obviously, they drafted a couple of very good value picks overall, including guys like Deontay Banks in the first round, one of the top-rated cornerbacks. Obviously, they drafted John Michael Schmitz, who is arguably the top center coming out in this NFL Draft. And then, of course, they get great value in the third round, drafting Tennessee wide receiver Jalin Hyatt. But I'm going to talk about a player that the New York Giants just recently signed in undrafted free agency, who could end up being one of the biggest diamonds in the rough or steals that the New York Giants could have picked up, and could potentially be a dark horse to not only make the roster, but could be a big-time playmaker on this offense. And I'm talking about former West Virginia wide receiver Bryce Ford-Wheaton. Ford-Wheaton has got an excellent combination of size and speed. 6'3", 221-pound wide receiver prospect who scored a 9.97 on the RSA out of a possible 10, which ranked him 11 out of 3,062 wide receivers from 1987 to 2023. This kid has the size and the speed that you are looking for in a wide receiver. He's also got an arm length of 33.5 overall. He's got a hand size of 9 1/3 overall. He's got a 1.54 second in terms of his 10-yard measurement and his 10-yard rushing. And he ran a 40-yard dash of 4.38. That's as fast as Jalin Hyatt. So you're talking about a guy who's 6'3", 221 pounds, and he's got speed, and even more speed. He's also he's got a vertical jump of 41. And here's a little bit of what Lance Zierlein said about the young wide receiver out of West Virginia. Ford-Wheaton is a big, long wide out, specializing in downfield jump ball victories. He's a high riser with above average leverage wingspan, but he rarely slips past press coverage easily and fails to separate like he should relative to the blazing speed and he showed in the NFL scouting combine. He's a raw route runner with tight hips and lacks the attention to detail that allows defenders to anticipate breaks and contests in his catches on a regular basis. Ford-Wheaton has the size and hand strength to post victories on 50-50 throws, but will need to prove he can consistently play to his athletic ability. Even as a raw player, that type of size and athleticism usually sells, but inconsistency sent up red flags across the NFL, and one head coach told Ford-Wheaton exactly that. Sometimes you look like Calvin Johnson, but sometimes you look like you could even start on a JUCO team in Iowa, Ford-Wheaton recalled via Mike Asti. This kid right now, you just look at his measurables, and he has the size and the speed to be a guy that you could just throw the ball to up in the air, and he's going to be able to come down with it and make the plays necessary to be a big-time contributor in the next level. In fact, Ford-Wheaton overall played in 4 seasons with the West Virginia Mountaineers. And overall, in terms of his stats, Bryce Ford-Wheaton had a good overall stats with the West Virginia Mountaineers. In 2019, he recorded 12 receptions for 201 yards and a 16.8 yards per catch with 2 touchdowns. And in 9 contests in 2020, he recorded 27 receptions for 416 yards and a 15.4 yards per catch with 3 touchdowns overall. His production, though, as a junior increased even more, where he recorded 42 catches for 575 yards with a 13.7 yards per catch average and 3 touchdowns. and starting 9 games of 12 he played and earned honorable mention as an all Big 12 conference notice. He led the Mountaineers during his senior season in West Virginia in 2022 with 62 receptions for 675 yards total and a 10.9 yards per catch, and he had 7 receiving scores in 2022 where he was starting in 12 games overall, and he repeatedly won all Big 12 conference noticeables. In terms of what Bryce Ford-Wheaton does, good and bad. His strengths are he's got a big frame and a plus-size wingspan. He has good physicality at the top of his route. He has used frame to shield and catch through contact. He uses his hand fighting to free himself from late separation. Jump ball specialist with strong hands and focus. Length to reach outside the frame and bring it in. He's a typical, prototypical outside jump ball 50-50 guy with 6'3", 220-pound plus frame. And he's also a guy that has 4.3 speed on the outside where you just throw the ball to him, he goes up, and he gets it. That's exactly what Bryce Ford-Wheaton does. But his weakness is overall is he just had 3 100-yard games over 3 seasons with West Virginia. He lacks the functional foot quickness to slip past press coverage. Obviously, what they were saying before, what Lance Zierlein was saying, he's a guy that's going to pretty much be manned up the entire time in terms of coverage. He's going to have a little bit of issues creating separation. He fails to gain much separation at the stem. He doesn't break away from the defenders on the outside. That's probably one of the reasons why he went undrafted in this draft. His rounded routes allow cornerbacks to undercut throws. He's not a very good route runner at all. He needs to be a lot better in terms of his hip movements and being able to create the little moves and juking to create the separation overall in the open field. And his route tree has very few limbs on it. That's one thing he's got to do a lot better in, is overall becoming a better route runner coming into the NFL. He has raw skills and traits to become a solid player in the NFL. You look at his measurables and you look at his skill set and you're saying to yourself, how is this kid not somebody that could have at least been drafted in the third, fourth, or fifth round because of the raw traits he has? The fact he runs a 4.3 speed, 4.3 40-yard dash, and the fact that this kid has excellent downfield abilities and he can jump up and get and just and pluck the ball out of the air. That's what you wonder with this kid, Bryce Ford-Wheaton. But the one thing that we have to see is if he can be able to develop more of a route tree overall when he comes into the NFL. And if he's a guy that can be able to create more separation on the outside, or if the Giants want to see if they could try to play him in the slot a little bit. Because of the fact that he has that prototypical ex-receiver type look. This is what Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka and the Giants coaching staff is going to have to try to get out of a guy like Bryce Ford-Wheaton, is his ability to break away from defenders, and because of the fact that this kid has the raw traits. The Giants have themselves a good young developmental prospect on the roster. We're just going to have to see if they can get the most out of this kid going forward. I just want to give a little bit of a little scouting report on this young prospect out of West Virginia, Bryce Ford-Wheaton, the wide receiver who went undrafted, who signed by the Giants, and why he could be a diamond in the rough for this team. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Give a sub to NYGJeffreyT85. More news updates and chatter surrounding the New York Giants. Turn on the bell for notifications of the next video or short dropping on the channel surrounding the New York Giants. And you guys let me know in the comment section if you believe that the Giants might have uncovered a gem in undrafted free agency in wide receiver Bryce Ford-Wheaton, 6'3", 221-pound wide receiver who ran a 4.3 40-yard dash at the combines this year. And if he could be one of those guys that could sneak his way onto the 53-man roster when we get to the end of training camp and preseason. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Take it easy, and let's go New York Football Giants as always. Together Blue, everyone.